I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Does it get any more pathetic than sending your daughter-in-law on a TV tour to threaten your political rival? Well, it doesn't get more pathetic than Donald Trump, and that's exactly what Donald Trump did this weekend. He had his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, go on TV and threaten Ron DeSantis and say that Ron DeSantis shouldn't run and that if he doesn't run, he'll get the MAGA support in 2028. Here, play this clip of Lara Trump on Sky News. Play the clip.
And I think he's a smart enough guy to know that it would be great to have all the support of this party, of the America First MAGA movement, whatever you want to call it, fully behind him in 2028, then possibly, fracturing it in 2024. I can tell you those primaries get very messy and very raw. We've experienced that before. So wouldn't it be nicer for him, and I think he knows this, to wait until 2028?
I mean, did you hear what she said there? She goes, those primaries get very messy and very raw. We've experienced that before. So wouldn't it be nicer for him, and I think he knows this, to wait until 2028? There's no way to interpret that other than a veiled threat. Can you get more pathetic than that? I mean, as you watch what Lara Trump is saying, Lara, we're all witnessed the midterm elections. Look, Donald Trump is the biggest loser. Look, he lost in 2018, he lost in 2020, he lost in 2021, and he lost again in the midterm elections. He really is the biggest loser, and he is the biggest loser because he leads with hate and conspiracy and lies and incompetence and pro-fascism and pushing weird, bizarre cult behavior instead of truly talking about issues that Americans actually care about. And the midterms were a major repudiation against Donald Trump. And I want to compare that clip right there of Lara Trump to Larry Hogan, the former governor of Maryland. He's on his way out. He served 2 terms as a Republican in a Democratic state, governing as a pragmatic Republican, a type of Republican who people would traditionally view as conservative, not the MAGA extremist, weird, pro-fascist QAnon stuff that takes place now. So let's play this clip of Larry Hogan from State of the Union on CNN. Play the clip.
On talking about issues people cared about, like the economy and crime and education, they did win. But people who tried to relitigate the 2020 election and focused on conspiracy theories and talked about things the voters didn't care about, they were almost universally rejected. And I think it's basically the 3rd election in a row that Donald Trump has cost us the race. And it's like, 3 strikes, you're out.
Well, do you think that's true? Because we've heard that after 1 strike and 2 strikes, to keep your analogy going.
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And Donald Trump kept saying, we're going to be winning so much, we'll get tired of winning. I'm tired of losing. I mean, that's all he's done.
So you don't think that this is just a blip and that Republicans will return to being, well, it's kind of still the party of Trump, but embracing the party of Trump? You think this time is different?
If you lose over and over again to what's really not that great of a team, you've got to reassess. Is it time to rebuild? And you have to go back and think, how do we have a more hopeful, positive vision? How do we appeal to a broader group of voters? Because in some cases we fired up the base, but we turned off wide swaths of swing voters, and it's why we didn't perform.
Former President Trump is teasing a very big announcement on Tuesday night.
Huge.
He could announce his 2024 bid to run for president again. What do you think will happen if he does?
Well, there's no question he's still the 800-pound gorilla, and it's still a battle. It's going to continue for the next 2 years. I would just say that we're 2 years out from the next election, and we're just trying to, the dust is settling from this one. I think it'd be a mistake. As I mentioned, Trump's cost us the last 3 elections. And I don't want to see it happen a 4th time.
Could he if he does announce, could he cost Republicans the runoff in Georgia?
No question about that. I mean, it's not as consequential now. We still would like to win Georgia, but we're not going to win back the Senate as a result. And that's Donald Trump's fault.
You know, I loved what Larry said there. He goes, yeah, all Trump was saying, we're going to win so much, we're going to get tired of winning. And then Hogan says, I'm tired of losing. I mean, all he's done is lose, and pointed out he lost in 2018, lost in 2020, lost in 2021, lost in 2022. And why I feel more optimistic is I genuinely feel at this moment there is this overall repudiation of Trump. Look, this MAGA movement that is still out there, which still represents a very small population of this country, is there. But we've all seen how small it is. This braggadocious MAGA mirage, as I've called it, is just that. And there's nothing more un-American than that cult behavior, the high-fiving Kim Jong-un and saying how much, you know, the cult leader is in love with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin is strong, and that Trump calls President Xi the king. Like, what are we talking about? That's just foreign policy. You know, and Trump here locking up Dr. Fauci and locking people up who are following scientific evidence and locking up people. I mean, these were, you know, and look, still remained, you know, very perilous times, because you have a Republican Party that went full MAGA, that adopted the hate and the lies, and who were committed and remain committed to overthrowing our democracy. But you just see how weak it is. I see Donald Trump on his social media platform spreading more conspiracies, and I see him posting weird memes about himself and posting QAnon memes. Here, pull this meme up that he posted. This is what he's posting. He's posting like 60 times a day, and he posts this thing, and it has a little Q over his head. On the bottom left, it says, "Where we go one, we go all," and it's you know, it's a pathetic embrace of a ridiculous conspiracy movement, where their view is that Donald Trump's going to overthrow our democracy and conduct public executions. That's what "where we go one, we go all" means. But I don't see Trump on any of the networks defending himself. And look, what's Donald Trump doing with the January 6th committee subpoena? He files a lawsuit in the Southern District of Florida to try to avoid having to testify before the January 6th committee, after his own lawyer, Alina Habba, said that he should testify and that she thinks he's going to testify. And then you had Sarah Palin say, "Oh, I think he's going to testify and he should. He's got nothing to hide." All his life, all he knows how to do is hide. And look, there's all those hateful qualities of MAGA that I could list and spend a huge amount of times on a video talking about, which I've done before. But one of the things that I've always said about Trump and MAGA is what cowards they are, how they always run away, how they don't confront hard problems, how they never roll up their sleeves. And fortunately, their incompetence is also their undoing, because they are weak and lazy people. But they, on their own echo chamber, spend all their time spreading the conspiracy and the noise, but don't put in the work in the places where you actually need to put in the work. But look at these people like John Eastman, who files the lawsuits, and the chairman of the Republican Party in Arizona, who files the lawsuits to try to stop having her to turn over her phone records. And you look at Mark Meadows, who files the lawsuit in South Carolina to avoid having to testify before the Fulton County grand jury, and files the lawsuit in federal court in Washington, D.C., both which he lost. And Newt Gingrich files a lawsuit in Virginia, which he lost. I mean, they're losing all of these cases. Look at Kash Patel, pled the fifth when he went in front of the grand jury in Washington, D.C., investigating the stolen documents that Trump hid at Mar-a-Lago, including our top secret compartmented records, and was given use immunity, a very limited surgical immunity that provides immunity only for his testimony and what could be derived from his testimony in terms of prosecuting Kash Patel. But Kash Patel goes to Breitbart and talks about how Trump declassified all of these documents related to Russia and our national security back in May. You know, it's this weird, weak, dangerous echo chamber that's been exposed. And I think nothing exemplifies that more than sending your daughter-in-law to go on TV and to threaten Ron DeSantis not to run. And by the way, I've talked about this Ron DeSantis thing before too, and how bad of a job the media is doing. So I always want to keep on reiterating it here, how the media just falls into these like BS narratives where they try to anoint Ron DeSantis and all they do is talk about DeSantis. But at the same time, when you have incredible Democratic wins for governors. I mean, just look at Maryland, where you had Wes Moore, a Democrat, win that election and defeated the MAGA extremist candidate there, Dan Cox, a big pickup of a Democratic governorship there. But you go across, whether it's Michigan or New York or Wisconsin or Illinois, you talk about these governor races where Democrats, Massachusetts, where Democrats won big. I don't hear any of the media talking about those governors, how they have gotten these big mandates, how Democrats have flipped state legislators, how Democrats have flipped the Secretary of States, how Democrats, of all the election deniers, have lost their Secretary of State races. The media needs to focus on that. We're, of course, going to focus about that here on the MeidasTouch network, but got to just show you how pathetic and feeble and utterly weak Donald Trump is sending his daughter-in-law. I'd feel bad if Donald Trump wasn't such a freaking menace and that whole family wasn't such a freaking menace. And so I don't feel bad at all. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button right now. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers, just past 700,000 subs. It's free to subscribe there. And also maybe check out our Patreon website and consider becoming a patron of the MeidasTouch Network. Independent media is more important now than ever. That's what these midterm elections have showed. And we're not funded by any outside investors that fund the both sides media and the pro-fascist media. We have zero outside investors. We are purely funded by your generosity and powered by democracy. So check us out, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There's lots of exclusive content there you could only get on Patreon, but most importantly, it'll help grow this platform. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.